This video was recorded live before a canned studio audience. It's Friday Night Movie Reviews, and here they are, Chris and Keith.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'm Keith.
I'm Chris.
And this is Friday Night Movie Reviews. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are going to be reviewing a movie tonight that's not out in theaters anymore. It came out a couple of years ago, but we've watched it on streaming. So this is part of our Friday night streaming reviews. The movie is called
Smile
from
2022.
Now, if you in case you don't know, you've been living under a rock or in a closet for the last few months. The sequel to this movie is out. It's called
Smile 2.
Smile 2. Now, listen, a lot of thought went into that title. So
I'm just glad that they just didn't just call it Smile. It's to confuse you when you try to go back and watch all these movies.
Right.
They didn't pull a Scream or a Rambo or anything like that.
Right. Or call it Smiling or something like that.
Yeah.
Just some kind of subtle difference. At least they did put a 2 after.
Yeah, they put Smile, the Return, or Smile, the Revenge. It wasn't one of those type of things. So, but yeah. I just like classic, simple. I'm glad they're getting back to the basics on these titles. Just smile.
Grin.
That'll be the knockoff like C movie you get watch on the Sci-Fi Channel. It'll be called Grin.
Grin, yeah, the one that's made by some company you've never heard before.
Yep.
All right, so this movie's been out for a couple of years, and if you haven't watched it, then maybe you need to watch it because this movie is kind of creepy. And we definitely, in case you haven't watched our review for Smile 2, we definitely recommend that you watch this movie before going to see Smile 2 if you plan on seeing Smile 2. If you've never seen this movie, we definitely recommend that you see this before seeing Smile 2.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, Smile 2 will not make any sense until way later on in the film.
And if you need kind of a reference point, Smile's in the same vein as like the movie The Ring or It Follows or The Grudge. That it fits more into that category where you have this entity type curse situation going on and they're having to deal with the repercussions of that.
Right. And what happens is this, we're not going to give too much away, but what happens is this entity latches onto individuals, and throughout the movie it latches onto one person after another, and that person has to deal with this entity in their life for the time that it's there.
Yeah, most of the time they don't even last a week, sometimes 4 days. The movie makes reference to that. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler to say that, but basically it causes the person to go insane. It causes you to kill yourself in front of someone. That's how it passes to the next person. That's as much as we can say. There may be other things you learn during the film of how to avoid or get rid of the curse, but you got to watch the movie to find out that part.
Right. Watch the movie to find that out. Now, you don't want the kids watching this movie. So if you're going to be watching this movie at home, then I would suggest that if you have any kids, any little ones, take them and put them in bed. I would suggest that you maybe put them upstairs in the bedrooms and you go and watch it down in the living room if your house is divided in that respect. If you have a home theater, go watch it in your home theater and shut the doors, whatever. This is a good party movie, so if you want to get a lot of people together and watch it with a bunch of people, then it's good to watch with a bunch of people because then you're all screaming together. So yeah,
the crowd reaction for when gory effects happen is what really sells this movie. I would recommend watching this with the crowd. When you're sitting there just watching it alone on streaming, it kind of loses a little bit of its edge.
It really does.
Because I rewatched it for this review, and it really felt that way. It was like, oh, okay. If I'd watched this with like how I did with Smile 2, I would have probably enjoyed it a little bit more.
Right.
But this one definitely has the gore in it, so that's one of the reasons why the kids don't need to see it, and it'll give them nightmares. Seeing that smile on these people's faces is enough to give you a nightmare,
Right.
even as an adult.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy in that respect, and like Chris was saying, it's kind of gory, and it's got some language in it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's kind of it has the amount of language that your typical horror movie would have in it. So it's not anything that's really breathtaking or anything like that. But yeah, you do want to keep the kids away because of the creep, because of the creep factor, because of the language, because of the violence that's in it. So
and it follows the trend like normal new horror movies. There's no real adult situations in it. There's no nudity in this movie, so you don't have anything to worry about as far as that. If a kid did get a glimpse of that, you're not gonna have to worry about them seeing anything like that in the movie. It's mostly just the language and the gore. Mm-hmm. The stuff that's gonna give them nightmares later on. That's kind of the thing to consider. With this movie, but the creep factor in this movie is what does it for me. Like as far as why I like the movie.
And the original I'm not gonna say original storyline because this,
like I said, it's really similar to The Ring.
This kind of thing has been done before, but they do it a little bit differently. In this one, and it really is it really plays very well and does very well. Mm-hmm. Good writing. Good acting in it because you really begin to feel for the antagonist.
Yep. Her real name is Sosie Bacon. I don't know if she's related to Kevin Bacon or not, but she's the main star. She plays the psychiatrist main character, and you find out how she inherits the curse entity into her. And so watch the movie for that, because again, we know this movie's been out since 2022, but we don't want to spoil it. We've always tried to make our videos about that, where we just kind of give you an overview and our thoughts of the movie without spoiling it,
and make you hungry to see it.
But exactly, we want you to enjoy the movie and not be spoiled by our video, basically. So
watch it to find out the little details, but the major details are what Chris was talking about. So there are some pretty there are a couple of other actors in this movie that are a little well known as well.
Oh yeah. The guy that plays A-Train from The Boys plays her boyfriend, the protagonist's boyfriend in this film. Cal Penn from Harold and Kumar or House, you might know him from that show. He plays the protagonist's boss. He's like the supervisor of the hospital. So you'll probably recognize those two. If you're a fan of Cal Penn or you're a fan of The Boys and want to see A-Train before he played A-Train, this would be your way of doing that.
Right. So yeah, it's one of those kind of movies, makes you feel, makes you wonder about things, really makes you think about things, makes you really feel for the protagonist, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, feeling sorry for everybody that's in the movie. It's one of those kind of films. Gee, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Or hey, you know what? There's only a few people in my life that I would like to see that happen to, if you have anything like that. But yeah, it's one of those kind of movies that really just makes you think, really makes you wonder about, when you see somebody out doing something really strange, really weird, acting out in a certain way. It kind of this movie will make you sit and wonder,
Yeah, that lady at the grocery store was acting odd, It's kind of like, what was up with that? It's
right.
Like, was it, she had something going on in her life, or was it a cursed entity,
Right.
And what's so clever about this movie is this monster or cursed entity, whatever you want to call it, it feeds off of the person's trauma that they've experienced in their life. Right. And the main protagonist definitely has had some kind of personal family trauma that you'll discover while watching the movie. I don't want to give that away. I'd rather you see it up close and personal.
Right.
Because they do show you, so you'll get to see what happened.
So there's some foul language in the movie.
Yep.
There's a lot of violence in the movie because that's just the nature of the movie. It's a horror movie, y'all. You can't really have a horror movie without violence. So there's gore in it and violence. Not There are a few jump scares in it,
not
but
as many
terrible.
as many as the movie that comes after this one. This one
Right.
does have some jump scares, but they're perfectly placed jump scares. Like
Right.
they're coming, so it's not as how in certain movies they just throw them every 5 seconds at
Right.
you. Like they seem necessary, not out of place.
Exactly.
Instead
Yeah.
of just trying to like, oh, our movie's not creepy enough, so we need to add jump scares to it. Like,
I mean, not that it's not a surprise when it happens.
yeah,
It is still a surprise when it happens, but after it happens, you're like,
yeah, that was
okay.
good placed.
Okay,
yeah.
You got me. That was good. Okay.
Yeah,
That
and
was good.
this
I
one,
even had my mouth open.
This one I'll say does a better job than the sequel does. But in most cases, that's the way it works. Is that you get it right the first time, and then the sequel tries to imitate the first one, and they tend to overcompensate
and one up it or 13 up it or whatever.
Yeah, because like it falls into that category. Like, how many sequels can you know that are better than the original one? And it's just like James Cameron kind of has that market closed to himself. You've got The Godfather 2, as far as that goes. But there's very few where so the sequel does stand out. Like, okay, I'm still the best out of these two movies.
Right. So basic premise of the movie is it's just a terrible thing that's going on in people's lives, and they have to deal with it, and there's really no escaping it. As far as what we think about the movie, this is streaming, so if you have a streaming service, you're paying for it anyway, so you're not really forking out any cash on it. Is it worth your time?
Oh yeah,
I would definitely say that this movie is worth your time if you are a horror fan, if you like being kind of creeped out about things. I guarantee you will not look at people smiling the same way anymore after seeing this movie, at least not for a little while. So yes, it does have creep factor to it in that regard, and it does make you wonder about things later on. So it is worth the time, I would say.
Oh, I agree.
So how many Pepsis would you give this one in our rating system?
This one, because it was the right amount of jump scares, it didn't overuse language. There was nothing that was distracting me from watching the movie or taking me out of the movie. I'm going to give this one a good solid 7, I think, because the creep factor gets me. Like I said, you look at somebody smiling a little too big, and you're like, oh no, did I accidentally get the curse in me?
Right.
It's it's kind of, it leaves you that same eerie feeling after you watch The Ring and the phone rings. It's one of those type of situations.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I'll always like to compare this movie to The Ring or It Follows, because it's in that same vein. So if you're a fan of those movies, I recommend this one for sure.
Exactly. For me, it is kind of a slow mover. So don't go into this movie thinking that it's going to get right into it right off the bat. If you don't like slow moving movies, then you may want to reconsider this one, because it does start out slow, but once things begin happening, it's a roller coaster ride after that. So give it a chance. Let it go through. Let the roller coaster go up the hill, because I guarantee you, when you get to the top and round that curve and start going down that next hill, it's all over but the crying from that point forward, because this movie really does keep you on the edge of your seat once things start happening. I would say, for me, because it starts out as a slow mover, I would probably agree with you. I'd give it a good solid 7 popcorns. Mostly because of that.
Yep.
So that's it. But it is a good movie, and it is worth your time. So I would definitely give it a chance. Definitely give it a chance. Well, that's our cue to go.
Yep. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification for when our next video drops. Leave us a comment. What did you think of Smile? If you have any suggestions for any future videos that we could review, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Right. And please do comment. We love hearing from you guys, knowing that you've watched our videos and knowing that you've liked them, and and responding back to you. Hey, go and watch this movie. It's definitely worth it. We appreciate you joining us tonight. And hey, enjoy your movie.